Welcome back, sports fans, to another episode of Sports with Ed. Before I get into what I'm going to cover sports-wise in this show, I just wanted to say it's been a while since I've been on. No question about that. I wasn't even certain if I was going to be back. I didn't know what was going to happen. But just so everybody knows, I had a cyst in my jaw, which affected my speech for a certain amount of time. It still is to a certain extent. I have a little bit of numbness in my lip. So if I mispronounce a word or two, forgive me. Also, as part of the process, I had to have a couple of teeth pulled. So it may not be as fluent as it was before, but I've worked hard to get back to this point, and hopefully this will be a good show. In this segment, I'm going to be talking about the return of Major League Baseball. The Tigers play on Tuesday against Cincinnati Reds in Cincinnati as one of their spring training games before the season starts next week. Also, I'll be talking about UFC, and I'm going to be covering a little bit of golf. In this segment, I want to talk about the Tigers. Tigers are getting back to action on Tuesday, as I stated. With any luck at all, the season will resume on time, or not resume, but actually start on time. And I've been thinking about this. This is going to be interesting, I would say. It's only a 60-game season. It doesn't really help the Tigers so much because they're a younger team. It would have been good for the younger players to have had more games. But it'd still be exciting to see how some of their younger pitchers are. It'll be interesting to see how Travis Demeritte does, as well as Jake Rogers. And given the format of this, and for those of you who don't know, what's been decided is each team is going to play 10 games against every other team in their division, and they're going to play 10 interleague games. So with that in mind, I'm assuming the 10 interleague games that the Tigers are going to play, probably 5 against the Reds, and let's say 5 against the Cubs. It could be the Brewers as well, and I'll take that into consideration when I tell you what I believe is going to happen. Given the way the division is and with the changes, there's no question in my mind that the Twins certainly have improved hitting-wise. Whether or not they've improved pitching-wise remains to be seen. The Indians were so decimated in pitching last year, it would be hard to imagine that in a shorter season that they won't be better pitching-wise. And their hitting is still phenomenal. The White Sox have added a lot of they've added a lot of pieces. Certainly, they added Gio Gonzalez, Edwin Encarnacion, just to name a few. So there's no question in my mind about those teams. The Royals will be interesting. In my mind, the question is, can the Tigers finish ahead of the Royals? Because I don't think they're going to finish above any of the other teams. And given the fact that the Tigers lost over 100 games last year, and well over 100 games last year, do I believe that this team will be better than the Royals? And I'm going to say the answer to that is yes. I don't know that the Royals have done anything significant. I think the Tigers have some really exciting young players. I've named 2 of them. But their pitching is going to be something. And Willie Castro even playing 60 games, that could be something. All he needs to do is really start learning how to hit. And I think the Tigers have another piece to the puzzle there. I believe that will be enough with the personnel the Tigers have to finish ahead of the Royals. And I've gone through this in my mind, and I project the Tigers winning, give or take 2 games, 24. It won't be good enough for them to get to the playoffs. I don't think anybody expects them to get to the playoffs if it was a 162-game season or if it was a 5-game season. Not going to happen. Not this year. But I think the future is bright. In these 60 games, I would also like to see Jeimer Candelario start to pick up the pace a little bit. He's fallen off, and he particularly fell off in hitting last year. The one concern I have, aside from the fact that the younger players aren't going to get to play more games, is this affects Miguel Cabrera a little bit. He's getting up there, and he's pretty close to 3,000 hits. With a really good season, assuming he was able to play a full 162-game season this year, and let's say out of that he played 105 games, it would have put him on pace to get 3,000 hits next year. Now it's going to be kind of spotty, and because he's getting towards 40, I wonder if he's going to be able to make it to 3,000 hits. He only has, I believe, 2 years left on his contract after this year, and actually it may only be 1. So if he does get to 3,000 hits, it might not be as a member of the Tigers, and that would be sad, and that does sadden me a bit. But it'll be good to have his contract off the books, and certainly one that I'll be relieved about will be Jordan Zimmerman's, whose contract is up at the end of this year. So with that in mind, you do what you can. And if the season's not interrupted, I think this is pretty much what we can expect, for sure. I also think the Tigers will be one of the teams, especially with the younger players, that will benefit from road games, because without spectators in the stand, traveling becomes about the only grind, basically. I don't really see there being a home field advantage with no fans in the stands. So we'll see, but like I said, I believe they'll win 24 games. They could win 22. They could win as many as 26. But, we will see what happens. In the next segment, I will be discussing golf and the return of Tiger Woods. Stay tuned on Ed's. Or stay tuned to Sports with Ed on Ed's Sports Channel.